Will, I got to ask you a question. The streets are talking. These Ben Johnson rumors are heating up, and they're saying that Will from Detroit Den is leaving Detroit Den 313 to join the Chicago Bears podcast. Is there any truth to this?
I die first.
Boots on the ground. We're already in the trenches. Will's been staking out and scouting out the local Chicago airport, waiting for Ben Johnson to land. Any success yet? Have you gotten eyes on?
No, but BB, our dog, is on the hunt. We gave him an old Ben Johnson Lions coaching shirt, and she's out here hunting. So as soon as he touched down, she'll have him.
The way you're dressed, it looks like you're waiting for Ben Johnson to just pop and meet you in a dark alley somewhere, and just only one.
100%. I got the glasses and my gator too, man. I just we're hunting. We're hunting.
All right. Breaking news today. Obviously, Ben Johnson. We kind of saw this coming, but it is breaking news. Ben Johnson leaving the Detroit Lions, becoming the head coach of the Chicago Bears, a division rival, an NFC opponent. We've kind of hinted that this was a possibility. It's an intriguing job. It's interesting, but how do you feel about this move, Will?
Full disclosure, we were going to talk about Ben Johnson today anyways, and then this happened, I feel like Coach Campbell did a press conference. I believe it was yesterday, but it was either yesterday or the day before, and he talked about that he was planning on losing both coordinators. I was okay with that. But what I'm not okay with, one, is the speed. It makes me feel like the deal was already done. I don't believe that the season ended and then they worked out a deal. He had his interview. They knew that they were hiring him. That's been locked in while we were going through our playoff run. That's a frustration for me. And it's a frustration of it being the Chicago Bears, especially when there was other jobs available. So I know that the Raiders wanted him very badly. He was their number one choice for, from what a lot of the rumor mill from like guys like Schefter and Ian Rappaport were saying that the Raiders really wanted him. So it's not like it's just Twitter or something else. It was some pretty viable sources that information was coming from. So to know that he had other options and he still chose to go to a team that is a rival of the Detroit Lions, knowing that he's going to see the Detroit Lions twice a year, it feels a little dirty. It feels a little bit like a betrayal. It just doesn't feel good. So my immediate instinct is to say I'm angry. I'm pissed off. I don't like it. And this is probably the last time you're going to be hearing me say the names Ben Johnson. From now on, it's going to be like, who? He's dead to me. When you go to another team, you're dead to me. So angry, Steve. How are you feeling?
I don't mind, William. Listen, if where we work, and I'm not going to put that information out there. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. If a rival company came to me and said, I'll triple your salary, you come work for me, I'm out the door. Like, I'm just going to be plain and simple. Like, how much we talking? How much time do I got to move? Like, move to a city like Chicago or Detroit. I'm not knocking Detroit, but it's an intriguing job. It's the center of America, a historic fan base. They're tripling his salary. I don't blame Ben Johnson for bettering himself. It's the nature of the business. I think that this is a kudos to Dan Campbell that, we're finally seeing his coaching tree expand, and we're going to see exactly, was Ben Johnson really the mastermind behind the offense, or was it a guy like maybe Tanner Inkstrad who could possibly take over for him in Detroit? We're going to see exactly what type of coach Ben Johnson is. Now, it's his first head coaching job. Do I think it's a good fit? No, I personally don't. But I get the enticement from the roster, having a young quarterback. They got some draft capital. I just don't trust the Bears ownership to do the right thing. So we're going to see, but I'm not mad. I don't blame Ben Johnson for trying to better his career or anything like that. So, and I think coordinators coach in the Super Bowl, and, there's already deals in place and news is broken that, they're going to be the head coach of so-and-so team after the Super Bowl. So that doesn't bother me either. I don't think that a 1 hour or 2 hour Zoom call is distracting from the team during practices. I think that these guys are professionals. And while I'm on the subject, I see a lot of people say that this is a big fuck you to the Lions. And like I said, or that this was that he possibly sabotaged the playoff game last week. I'll say this. I don't know Ben Johnson personally, never sat and shook his hand or talked football or anything in life with him. But I can't believe that he would sabotage a football game. I don't buy into that narrative. I think someone tweeted that out again, man. We get on this Twitter and people just put out some crazy nonsense and it just takes off into the world and it picks up a lot of speed. So I've seen some stuff that Ben Johnson possibly sabotaged the Lions because he was going to division rival and the deal is in place, like you already said, I think that winning was at the forefront, and we just caught a bad break, and people are putting out a lot of shitty stuff. So if that's truly what you think, then I don't know. But like I said, never had a conversation with Ben Johnson. I'm not going to question his integrity. I truly believe that he went into that Washington Commanders game with the full intentions of winning. That's not the way the cards fell. And Lions fans are being a little emotional, grasping at straws, trying to find a narrative that fits. And I just think that one is absolutely preposterous.
Yeah, I agree, man. I by no means do I think that he went in and tried to lose a football game. But I can't cut him loose for bettering himself. I get the analogy that you made as far as us being in the workplace that we're in, and if a different company offered us, they were going to pay us double or triple the salary. I 100% get that, and I understand where you're coming from, but I got to be honest, I completely disagree. From our company standpoint, yeah, of course, if somebody offered us another opportunity for a double, triple the salary, I would take it. But I feel like in his profession, it's just a different situation. He's got a great organization, a great situation, and a group that is treating him so good, man. I'm not gonna get on here and bash our company or anything like that or whatever. But I don't think
say what's on your mind, Will.
I just don't think that they treat. We don't have a Dan Campbell at our company. Dan Campbell's special, man. If we're coming through a hardship situation, you're not going to see the leaders of our company in tears or that much invested into us. So I just think that's the ultimate difference maker, man. Dan Campbell, man, Brad Holmes, Sheila. They lead with love. They lead with honesty. They're loyal people. They're guys who they bring in are the guys who they're trying to keep. They're trying to build something special. And they're trying to do that from a level of just fairness and honesty, man. And I appreciate that and respect it. So I think that's the difference for me. Now, do I think that Ben shouldn't have went anywhere? He should have stayed with the Detroit Lions forever? No, but I do think it's a little bit. I just don't like the Bears. I just don't like it when you had other opportunities. Now, if the Bears was his only opportunity, then I could say, okay, like that's all you had on the table. You would like to be a head coach. So be it, man. I get it. But there was virtually every team besides the New England Patriots would be happy as Ben Johnson as their head coach, man. So it's not like the Bears were the only one. Now, do I get he probably saw Caleb Williams, a guy who has all the tools, and said, hey, I can go out there and do something special. Maybe the Bears are going to let him be a head coach and a play caller and call the shots. I don't know. But I guess we'll find out more as this thing unfolds. And so be it. But I can't let them off the hook on my end, man. I don't like that it was the Bears, and I kind of take a slight as it being the Bears. But am I worried? I'm not, man. So, Steve, I know that we don't have a lot of the information yet, but if you had to choose and you had to guess, do you think that Ben Johnson is going to be a successful head coach with the Chicago Bears?
I can't grade him on a head coach because I haven't seen him as a head coach yet. So I'm going to steal a Will Ford classic and use the politician's answer. But I will say this. I think you're right about Caleb Williams. If it's coming down to the Vegas Raiders and the Chicago Bears, and I have to put myself in a coaching spot and I have to attach myself to a quarterback that is going to probably dictate my job in my future, as it sits today, I'm probably going to go with Caleb Williams instead of Aiden O'Connell out in Vegas. I'm not going to roll the dice on him. I think Vegas is probably a more fun city. I personally love Vegas more than Chicago, if I'm being honest with you. But when I look at this from a business standpoint, I'm not going to attach my career to Aiden O'Connell or possibly even a rookie, whatever they're going to do in the draft. I don't know. I think I'll take the number one pick from last year's draft with 1 year under his belt, and Chicago's roster is probably hands down better than the Raiders. So if I'm Ben Johnson, I understand the move. And again, I'm not worried. Hey, hats off to you, Ben. But, just because we're out of the playoffs and the season's over doesn't mean that I still don't have this belt right here on my table. We don't get to take it to Ben Johnson's ass cheeks a couple times a year now too. And I think this makes for a more interesting rivalry, man. And I'm curious to see where did the Detroit Lions go, because now that Ben Johnson's gone, hey, dead to us. See you twice a year. He'll be taking 2 losses. Where did the Detroit Lions go from here, William? What do you think our next move is going to be for the offensive side of the ball?
I got some ideas, man. Before I answer that question, though, I'm going to say this just so we stay on that same subject that we were on before we leave. I completely get when you're talking about Aiden O'Connell and Caleb Williams, but there's a guy named Trevor Lawrence that's out there that's got all the tools too that he could have went and been the head coach of, who already has some experience and showed that he can get his team to the playoffs, man. So it's not, for me, it's just a little bit deeper than just being able to go somewhere where there was a good quarterback, because there were some other situations where there was good quarterbacks, i.e. Trevor Lawrence, who I think can do virtually everything you need a quarterback to be able to do. But to answer your question, who do you think that we're going to go to next?
Yeah, well, what are we going to do? Who's going to be our offensive play caller? Let me ask you this: do you think it'll be in-house or someone new to the team?
Honestly, so just I don't believe in getting on here and lying, man. I haven't done a bunch of digging on who the next guy could be outside of in-house. Now, in-house, I said it a long time ago, I absolutely love Tanner Engstrand. And what kind of excites me about the potential of Tanner Engstrand is Coach Campbell coming to the podium and saying that, listen, I'm going to get the best guy that I can to come in here and take the place of our OC and DC if we lose them, because at the time he didn't know for sure if they were gone yet, right? So that being said, he went on to say he wanted to keep the same terminology for Jared Goff. He wanted to keep a lot of the same play style for Jared Goff. So if you're going to do that thing, who better than somebody in-house to keep all those things in motion? Now, I do wonder if we're going to have to lean in another direction with Ben Johnson seeing us twice a year. If we have a lot of the same terminology and same concepts, is that going to be an issue when you play against Ben Johnson? So that's something to think about. Obviously, that's down the road. But if he really wants to keep the terminology and the wheels turning the way that they have been, then I think it's probably either Scotty Montgomery or Tanner Engstrand. I really like Coach Montgomery. It's someone that Coach Campbell and a lot of people have talked about as probably being a future head coach in this league. They talk about him as being just a leader of men, similar to Aaron Glenn. And that's something that leads me to another question, Steve, and let me know how you feel about it, or if you've heard it, and you guys can drop it in the comments too, and let me know if you've heard it. I haven't heard a lot of Ben Johnson being a leader of men. I hear him being an X's and O's wizard. I hear him being super talented and super gifted, but I don't hear players, coaches, or just people around the league talking about how great of a leader of men he is. That's something I hear oftentimes from Brad Holmes, Chris Spillman, Aaron Glenn, Scotty Montgomery, Coach Brunell, Hank Fairley. Like I hear that. I hear that talked about with a lot of our coaches. Deshae Townsend, I even hear it. That's not something I hear articulated with Ben Johnson's name oftentimes. So that's something that's going to be critical if you're going to be a head coach. Hiring your own personnel, leading those guys, as well as leading the players, setting a culture. You go out to the Bears, which is completely a dumpster fire right now. Well, I forgot I was in Chicago.
Luckily around like the 19th floor. You should be good, but if you see that sniper glint, get down real quick.
Right, I might have to close the blinds, man. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, he's gonna have to set the culture and do all of that stuff, man. And I'm not gonna talk too much about that because that's his problems, and we're not a Chicago Bears podcast. But I don't know, man. I just think that we got a great situation with starting with Scotty Montgomery and Tanner Engstrand. So those would be the two that I would see. Is there anybody outside, in-house, besides those two that you're looking at?
I like both of those two. I don't have a list of names for offensive guys. All right. Well, I if we're talking defense, and maybe we'll have to spin this and talk the same thing with Aaron Glenn in a couple of days. I got a list of guys, but offensively, if we're looking in-house, I think you're right. And it wasn't really on my radar, but maybe changing the terminology is a better thing. I mean, maybe a fresh start, but someone who's still familiar with our offense and knows our strengths and weaknesses. So someone in-house probably checks both those boxes, but I do think those are probably the front two leading categories, but or contenders, Engstrand and Scotty. But I wouldn't be shocked if Mark Brunell. I think when he was a player, he was one of the smartest quarterbacks in the league, very underrated, stuck on a really bad Jaguars team most of his career. And again, Dan's going to have more information than us. All right. He's the one who's sitting in those offensive meetings. We kind of pulled Ben Johnson out of nowhere. All right. When we needed an offensive coordinator, I don't think he was on many people's radar. He was a tight end position coach. And all of a sudden now he's the the offensive coordinator of the Lions, and we're trying to build something here and rebuild through the draft, and he's the main guy on offense. I think he kind of came out of nowhere. So if I'm looking for the same type of move, I think Mark Brunell, I would say he's probably third on my list. I think Tanner is 1, Scotty's 2, Mark Brunell's probably 3, but I think Mark Brunell could essentially be a home run just because he's a former player. He understands the locker room. I think he would gain the trust of a lot of people on offense. He knows how the game works. I think he's a real strong dark horse, Will. I don't know anybody else really outside of the organization yet. We'll start doing some digging, but I think those are probably the 3 I'd keep an eye on.
Yeah, I want to put coach, our O-line coach too, Hank. He's in the mix too. I don't want to have any disrespect towards him. He's another guy that would be in the mix for me too. But who knows, man? Like I said, I haven't done crazy digging into him. The biggest one that I've done digging to is Coach Inkstrand, man. Love him. I already knew about Coach Montgomery. I think he's a great leader, man. So that, like I said, man, who knows? We'll see. We'll do some more digging moving forward. But I'm excited. I think that there's a potential for us to get better, man. And that's no disrespect to Coach Johnson, but Coach Johnson's done some things, man. And Steve, let me know how you feel when I say this. He's gotten, to me, in my opinion, a little bit too cute for the moment sometimes. Sometimes he, with his trickery and the extra stuff on, maybe a 3rd and short situation or a 4th and short situation, instead of keeping it simple and pounding the rock, he's doing a reverse. He's doing a trick play. He's passing the ball on 4th and short. Again, and I hate to keep saying it, but Coach Campbell, I feel like, is leaving, as Steve says, breadcrumbs for us. When he stood at the podium, he said, when someone asked him, I believe the question was, did he have any regrets or things that he would change after reflecting on the season, early. And he said he's a heavily biased to the offensive side as a coach, and he needs to be more involved in it. So I don't know exactly what that means. Does that mean that it wasn't Coach Campbell's choice to have David Montgomery out there for the first series instead of Jahmyr Gibbs? Does that mean it wasn't Coach Campbell's choice to be in 5 wides on 3rd and 1 instead of, I know he said if they had it to do over again, he would be cool with it, but was that not his initial choice? His personality doesn't give me a guy who's banging 2 venti coffees every morning, doing down-ups with the team. It doesn't give me 5 wide receivers on 3rd and 1 type of personality, tough, gritty guy. So I don't know exactly what he meant when he said those things, but he did leave us some breadcrumbs and say, moving forward, he will be heavily involved in the game planning and the preparation with the offensive guys, man. So that was just interesting to me that he chose those words, man. So I don't know. We'll see.
I'll dive into it, Will. I only saw bits and pieces of the press conference, but now you're making me have to go back and watch it, and then I'll come back tomorrow. I'll give you a full report on exactly what's going to happen, because that's what I do. I'm a bloodhound, okay? If you drop a little clue, I'm going to sniff it out, and I'm going to get to the end of this investigation. It's just the strength of one of my many, many strengths, as well as like good looks, charisma, and smelling out little clues that Dan Campbell leaves. But I will say this, William. I don't know. I have a hard time believing that Dan Campbell isn't more involved. Like, he's got a headset on. All right, we're not talking about Brady Hoke here. He hears the play sheets that are coming in, or the play calls that are coming in. If he doesn't like something, he can kill it. If he doesn't like the personnel package, he can kill it. You're the captain of the ship, and if your other coaches don't like it, that's just the way it is. Tough luck. Like, we all have bosses. We all have people we answer to. Dan Campbell is the boss of the Detroit Lions when it comes to the team standpoint and what goes on the field. So if he doesn't like something, the personnel, the play calling, I would have to say, and again, let me defend Ben Johnson real quick, because I get it. Hindsight's 2020 now, knowing the outcome of some of these trick plays and the Jameson Williams thing. It sucks. It was an interception. It's just the way Ben Johnson was. It's the same thing as Dan Campbell being aggressive and going forward on 4th down. It was just our nature. Like, we know that, like, hey, we throw out some trick plays. Keep you on your toes. Maybe it's coming, maybe it's not. We didn't see much trickery when we played Minnesota. So I hate the play call because it didn't work. But if Jameson Williams completed that and maybe it's a touchdown or even a gain of 15, we're probably not even having this discussion. So let's not be, I don't want to be shocked that he ran a trick play. For God's sake, we gave the ball to Penei Sewell on a tackle reverse and had him looking to throw the ball, and everyone erupted and cheered because the play ended and it wasn't a positive play. but it wasn't as catastrophic as what happened, and the moment wasn't as big as what he did to Jameson Williams and putting the ball in his hands. A guy who's never thrown a pass at any level going back to high school was probably wild to me, but maybe that's the part of trickery. It's something that surprises you. So it sucks that it didn't work, but a lot of people get on and they're just like, oh my God, you see that trick play from Ben Johnson? Like, yeah, but sometimes they don't always work. Okay. So, I mean, it's just the way he was. It's the same thing as Dan Campbell and his aggressiveness. It's just either you live with it and you die with it, I think. How do you disagree?
No, I don't, man. I don't disagree. It's not what I like to see, to be honest. It's fun. It's fun. Like, I don't take anything away from it. But you know how I am. I'm like, we can go for it on fourth down and get it. And I'm texting you like, man, I don't like it, man. I don't, you know what I mean? So I don't, it's to each his own, man. We have a lot of success when we do it. Oftentimes, man, as a coach, you make the best decisions you can for your style. Everybody's got a bunch of different ways that they do it and they're successful with it. So I'm not taking anything away from it, man. I like Coach Johnson until after this podcast. And I'm not going to say I wish him well. I wish him health. I'll say that, you know. And other than that, it is what it is. Hopefully he has a whole bunch of unsuccessful trick plays when he plays against us.
Yeah, have your receiver who's never thrown a football in his life go out there and try to throw one against us. Help us out a little bit. Anything else tonight, William?
No, man, I'm just excited to see who we get moving forward, man, and just to dig into that. I would like for people to throw it in the comments. You know, what are you looking for? I know we got some shows lined up that we got that, you know, locked and loaded that we want to talk about. But if there's something else that you guys want to see or something that you guys got on your mind, and let us know how you feeling. Are you feeling betrayed? You know, feeling betrayed about Ben Johnson? Don't care. Because I will say this before we get off, Steve. I'm not scared of Ben Johnson. I'm just not. And I actually speak to that too before we leave. But I'm not scared of him because I feel like there was some mistakes made in some situations. And there was some times where we kind of went to sleep as an offense, you know. So for as much as he was great, he did have some times where he wasn't putting up points and things got a little bit quiet and stale and stagnated up. So was the trick plays a cover up for when things got stale? You know what I mean? Because if you're just rolling, you don't necessarily need trick plays potentially. So the question mark of, are you a leader of men? Why did our offense die oftentimes? We had a whole season last year where we couldn't score in second halves and third quarters, right? We had moments this year even where we were having a tough time scoring points, where we got all of the pieces. I won't go over it. You guys watch the show or you guys know the Detroit Lions offense. So are you scared? Are you scared of Ben Johnson moving forward?
Is that a question to me?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess I could just pull up the standings for where the Chicago Bears finished, and I think that should answer your question. I'm not worried. What would I be worried? I'm worried about your safety in Chicago. That's probably the only thing I'm worried about when it comes to Chicago. Like, am I worried about the Bears? I'd be worried about a team that I've whooped like 5 out of the last 6 or whatever it is. I won't lose any sleep over Chicago tonight. Well, let's get real here.
I dig it.
Last thing for the night. Not Ben Johnson related, but Aaron Glenn related. I did see he had a second interview with the New York Jets. So I feel like we might have to start preparing a show and talking about some defensive replacements. I got a laundry list of guys I'd like to see on defense, Will. So without getting too much into it, is there anything you want to chime in with that? But without getting into like a full breakdown, we'll kind of wait and see what happens there officially.
Yeah, well, I'll wait and see. I got a guy that I know that we probably got in common, and then the in-house guy. So those are my two. I don't got a laundry list, so. But I won't spoil it.
All right. Hey, we'll talk about it later. Stick around. Hit that like button. We'll be back later with another show.
Peace.
Careful out there, Will. Hey, careful in those alleys. Ben Johnson might be looking for you as well.